Welcome back to Signing Day Central right here on the campus of Lafayette College. I am happy to be joined by Mickey Fein, the offensive coordinator. Mick, it's been a long road, but a good road and a lot of good kids coming on campus, and just good to have you here today.
Great to be here. Excited about the day. You know, it's always one of those days you kind of mark on your calendar, and excited that it's here.
It is an exceptional day here on campus. We're going to take a chance here in this hour to look at the 10 offensive recruits. There are 3 offensive linemen, there are 2 tight ends, there are 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and a quarterback that you brought in. So 10 overall recruits out of the 18 are on the offensive side of the ball. And before we get that, Mick, is there any thing that you guys went through? You started way back, obviously, this time last year, starting with those juniors. Did you target any position? Was there a position or maybe a few positions that you looked that was lacking throughout the year, maybe come to the end of the year where you said, hey, we need to go get these type of kids? You got 3 offensive linemen, but it was pretty evenly broken up throughout the entire cast of characters.
Yeah, and that's, that starts, even before, the end of the year. You're starting that in the summer and kind of getting everything ready to go and finding ways to make those things happen. And, we really targeted on inside interior offensive linemen. That was the first thing that we really looked at. And then we needed some in-place tight ends. That was something that we were really, looking towards. And then we needed some speed on the outside. And then to solidify our tailback situation, obviously losing Ross, we had to get a couple guys and excited about those guys. So.
Right. Now the offensive line, you talked about being a little bit stronger interior. We talked all year long about the shuffling of guys. Zach Mazer, I think, played everywhere except announced games with Gary and I.
Yeah.
I mean, he did everything, and he really kind of settled in that Lafayette game against Lehigh in 150 at that left tackle position and really did a great job. Now, looking at a game like that, going back and obviously running the ball like you guys did, I mean, the offensive line is really where it starts. You've got to be good up front. Stan does such a good job. They were maligned a lot this year, but they came through at the end. That had to make you proud.
Yeah, and that game, obviously, they really came together. And, we had a group of guys that really, kind of locked into each other and were able to do a great job and really get after it and win the line of scrimmage. Like you said, where it starts is obviously up front and having those guys. And, Zach did such a great job, of just kind of going all over the place. He was like a Swiss Army knife up there, finding different ways and just he got it done, because he understood and obviously he played a lot of snaps for us. But getting all those guys in there and, having to play 8 different offensive lines in 11 games. But, to have that bye week kind of in front of that game, to get those guys to kind of play together was a big part of that as well. Okay,
now to add, we'll kind of shift gears a little bit. You added some kids on the outside with some speed. You're probably looking about maybe you have some length. We saw obviously Mrazek, we saw Palumbo, we saw some of the kids, Timmy Evangelist, some kids that have some height, can go up and get the football. We saw that in the game in 150. Probably add a little more speed on the outside and at the running back position. Was that a target as well?
And number one thing for us outside was speed. And, a guy like CJ, that's what we were looking for. And to find a slot kid, like you said, Matt obviously is a great big kid, and Rock and, Nick Francis and, Timmy are all great guys and really excited about them all coming back, all played time for us. But we needed a guy like in the slot that you can throw those bubbles and quick screens, and we think that's...
And that being a major part of your offense, you need a guy that you can depend on that can do that. And not one guy, maybe 2 guys, because if you go 4 wides like you do and show as many formations as Mickey does, I mean, you need those type of kids that can at least threaten. Now, without having Ross in the backfield this year, you may depend on a kid like that with some speed in the slot even more this year.
Yeah, and just finding ways to get those guys the ball in space, and that's what we're always looking for.
The game's all about nowadays.
Yeah, just a, numbers game, it always is, and, just finding ways, if they are in space, can they make a guy miss and go score?
So finding an Amendola or an Edelman.
Yeah, exactly. The Patriots, we'll take that, me being a Massachusetts guy and, us running off that great win that we had, excited about that.
I'm a Jet fan, so we'll stop that right there. But before we get in here, we're going to start with the offensive linemen. Okay. Again, there were 3 offensive linemen. We'll go from there. But a couple offensive linemen this year, a little different mold than you got last year. Last year kind of seemed like the taller, bigger kids. This year, the kids aren't as tall, 6'3", 300 pounds, kind of the average for these kids, but they seem extremely athletic. And as we start to roll, we'll talk about Logan Greaser, which is just an outstanding football player coming out of Ohio this year. And he is just a kid that you've got to love.
Yeah, Logan's just an exciting kid because of the way he comes off the ball and the power he plays with. You see right here, just him just coming off the rock and really getting it done. You know, anytime he locks in, the kid goes backwards, and that's what you're looking for, is that shock, you know, the ability to move your feet and then really shock the kid and go backwards.
Yeah, what I noticed with him is great knee bend too, good flexibility. He has long arms. You can see him get up into the hole here. I mean, the kid, you know, real impressive, obviously on the down blocks, which most kids at that level can do. But there are a few clips here where he actually reaches a 5, and here the eat out, you know, down with the tight end, pull him around. I mean, just that ability there to lock on, like you said. Great knee bend and good flexibility. He's just a great fit for you guys.
Yeah, really excited about him. And like you said, those abilities are really tough to teach. You know, you either got it or you don't. And obviously, you know, what you see on film here, he has that ability.
And Logan, a 2-time Associated Press All-Ohio selection, 2014 Northwest Ohio Lineman of the Year. He also played defense, 72 tackles. He had 12 tackles for losses. He throws the shot put. He played AAU basketball, so he's got to be a good athlete. So again, a National Honor Society, and you know, I know Gary mentions this all the time, is all the kids coming here, good students. I mean, they are really all National Honor Society, all good students. They wouldn't be coming to Lafayette if they weren't. So Logan, a great get for you guys, and you had to be excited because he had a lot of other offers too as well.
Yeah, he had a lot of stuff going, and you know, he fell in love with the place, and we're excited that he did.
Okay. Well, we're going to move on here. Tanner Kern. I know a kid you and I have been talking about for months. Now, Tanner, out of Essex, Connecticut, played at Xavier High School. Again, in that 6'3", 315-pound mold, we'll get a look at him.
Yeah, Tanner's a kid that I recruited. You know, I have New England in the regional recruiting, so, you know, got real close with him and his family, and he's just, you know, obviously a very talented kid from what you're seeing here. He's another kid that played multitude of positions, you know, basically every single position. Moved him to center, you know, for his senior year, and, you know, they ended up winning the state championship this year in Connecticut, and, you know, he did a great job for them. He came down to one of our camps, and it was just very impressive athletically. And that's the one thing you see with him is his feet and his ability to move at his size. You know, you don't get a lot of those type of kids, you know, that can do those things at 300 pounds, and he's a talented kid.
Well, the one thing that jumps out to me for Tanner is the fact that you said played center.
Yep.
And that's a position that is really kind of, since you know, Lehigh 2 years ago when we lost Crosby, that's kind of been a question mark for you guys. You got to find a center, a guy who can make calls, call out the mic, you know, find out what's going on, and work well with the quarterback. So that's a big position. And maybe Tanner, does he start at center? Does he move in there? And does he look, not start as in the games, but is that maybe a position you might try him at?
Yeah, the biggest thing I always talk to the guys is that you got 44 guaranteed games. You know, the fastest, you know, chance that you got to get out there, let's find it. So if it's at center, if it's at guard, whatever it might be, let's find a way to do it. And the good thing is that he's done it. You know, we're not having to teach him how to do the things that we're asking him to do. He's done that at the center position.
Right, and Tanner, all-state laurels in Connecticut, Walter Camp in USA Today, all Connecticut teams. He played center, he played baseball, and he wrestled, the National Honor Society. He's looking to major probably in economics, and he had, again, some bigger offers that he had turned down or at least turned away, and you had to kind of hang on to him for a while because he committed way back when.
Yeah, he was an early commit, really kind of didn't want to, you know, deal with the whole process as, you know, you're seeing some of the stuff going on in ESPNU today. He knew where he wanted to go and what he wanted to do, and his family was excited about, you know, Lafayette, and, you know, I'm just excited that he's here and ready to go. Strong
character, strong parents. Be easy to hang on to a kid like
that. Yeah, and that's, you know, Lafayette College. You know, you're dealing with great kids, and he's another one of those guys.
Well, we're going to move on here. We're going to move on to Kevin Zetas, and that's a familiar name. Kevin out of Delran, New Jersey. Again, 6'4", 300 pounds. Kevin's older brother, Nick, is here, and I know you're excited about him.
No doubt. And we told Nick if Kevin didn't come, he wasn't allowed to come back either. So, you know, Kev's just a nasty football player, and I mean that in a great way. You know, he just loves the game. He's a physical kid. You just see him, you know, enjoy contact. And when you got guys, you know, up front that do that and can play and move like he does, you know, he's another kid that's an excellent basketball player. So I know our intramural, you know, football, basketball guys will be.
You can see that on the film, the way a kid can pull at that size, can get out, get his shoulders square to the line of scrimmage, focus on a target, which is usually going to be an outside backer, and at the high school level, smaller kid can lock on. He seems like he's got very good footwork and speed. Look at him here.
Yeah.
I mean, the kid's just and he finishes.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He plays, you know, to and through the echo of the whistle, and for those guys up front, you know, that's a big part is, you know, just effort. and you see that out of him. Snap it.
Two-time All-West New Jersey first-team selection, first-team honors in track and field. Throws the shot put and the discus, a National Honor Society player as well. And again, his older brother's here. He's going to major in engineering. Yeah. Just a fantastic get. Kevin seems to be, and I hope Nick's not listening, but Kevin is a little bit more, I think, ahead of the curve than maybe Nick was at this point in time. Would you agree with that?
Well, I think you just started something that's going to happen in the locker room and maybe a wrestling match. So I'm excited to see that in one-on-ones.
300-pounders going out.
I just know his folks are excited that on Saturday they just have to come to one place, and not split time and go to different places. Yeah, so I'm really excited about it.
So 3 good linemen, obviously very athletic. You're excited about them. You got we lose 4 linemen. You lose Max, obviously. You lose Janot. You lose the big left tackle Luke Charlanzio.
Yep.
And Zach Mazer. So 4 kids that really put some effort in the last couple of years for you here. You return one of those kids, and you do return both tight ends. And we're going to talk about the tight ends. So 3 good gets at the offensive line.
Yeah, and all those seniors that you're talking about really bought into what Coach Clayton is all about, and working hard and being a part of something that's kind of outside of yourself, and that's the offensive line. And we're hoping that those guys, we think they are, but they got to get here and really prove that, and we're excited about where they're at right now.
And never more important than on November 22nd when they paved the way for 300 yards rushing by Ross Sherman. Yeah. You saw it in the stands, you could feel it. The offensive line owned the trenches. When you can do that, sometimes it doesn't matter who's carrying the ball. Ross is good, we know that. But those kids up front were fantastic.
Yeah, when that's happening, it makes my job a lot easier.
You call pretty much anything you want.
It's like when you're shooting and you keep on hitting things, and the basket keeps on getting bigger and bigger. It's the same thing as your play sheet.
Okay, so we'll move on to the tight ends. We're going to move on to Angus Evans, a tight end who's a PG kid. Now, we haven't talked about this, but you have 3 kids that are PG, which means postgraduate. Angus, a tight end, 6'5", 250 pounds from Roam Free Academy, and then spent a year at Bridgeton Academy.
Yeah, and he's just a big person, and that's the thing. When I stand next to him, he makes me look small, and I love that in the tight end position, and that's what we really needed. We got a couple guys, the year prior that are really athletic and do things, and then Angus is another kid that can be in place, and obviously you see him catching the ball here a little bit, but also being able to really collapse an edge. He was a quarterback in high school.
Yes.
So this year was his first year playing tight end. So his whole post-grad year, he played tight end. I know they had a couple injuries, and he had played quarterback a little bit at Bridgeton.
Right.
But he was, the person that's really kind of learning. But you want to learn with a big kid like that. So
sure. And at quarterback, he threw for 1,500 yards in high school, 12 touchdowns. He was a first-team All-League player as well. He played quarterback. He spent the post year here at Bridgeton, but looks like a nice inline tight end. And we know you brought in 2 tight ends last year, both Quinn Smith and Dylan Wadsworth, 2 good tight ends, more pass-receiving type tight ends. But I know Quinn did play in the Lehigh game in line. But this kid looks like a guy who might be an extension of the offensive line early in his career.
Yeah, but also can stretch the field too, and that's the thing. We ask so much of those guys, and we like to use them. And you saw, like you said in the Lehigh game, having the opportunity to get into 22 personnel with a lot of guys out there. We like to do that stuff, and he's a guy that can definitely help us with that.
Yeah, that was something that I actually wrote down, is that the 22 personnel, for people that don't know, 2 running backs, 2 tight ends. 22. 1 running back, 2 tight ends, 12 personnel. Something you use a lot of, run a lot of different plays out of the same formation, so that having that extra tight end, like you did when you had Morgan Donahue, just to have that second tight end with good size and pass catching ability, Angus Evans brings that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to move on. Liam Reedy. Liam, a somewhat local guy here at Wyomissing, Pennsylvania. 6'4", 220 pounds. Again, a District AAA championship player, all Berks County. Tell me what you like about Liam.
Yeah, he's another athletic kid that's long. He's a tall kid that can, kind of stretch the field. You see him actually split out right here, catching a fade ball. You like to see that out of the tight ends, being able to run and, make plays. And any guy that gets in the end zone, the offense coordinator really likes, so we like those things
Liam happening. Seems to play long. He has some long arms. He gets on you quick. He can lock you out, that type of thing. Obviously, all the kids that we've talked about so far, offensive linemen and tight ends, they all need to get bigger.
Yeah.
And Coach Potts, that's what you have him here. That's what you pay him for. So a guy like Liam Reed, you can get in the weight room a little bit, get a little bigger, a little stronger, may have a little more time to develop, but has obviously all the tools and the essentials. Nice down block there.
Yeah, you see him just collapsing the edge and, having the opportunity to, run power behind, those type of guys is something that we like to do here. And, anytime you can get length like you're talking about, you got a frame that Coach Potts can kind of build on.
Right. Seems like a guy maybe you could actually step him off the line and then bring him back around on that little handback play that you guys got so accustomed to, which was one of the most beautiful plays I saw in Lafayette Lehigh in 150.
Yeah.
A little handback, and Ross was off to the races for his third touchdown. But it looks like Liam fits in that personnel as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing is we got those in place, out of place. Any of those big guys, we can move them around and find ways for them to, collapse an edge or set an edge in some shape, way, or form. And he's definitely a kid that fits that mold.
Two good terms there to learn from when I talk about it on Inside the Huddle during the year. Collapse an edge, set an edge. That's what the tight end does, as well as fullbacks and H-backs as well. So one thing I will just want to point out is anybody that's paying attention today is if you take anybody's name, whether it be Liam or Angus, just add the suffix HUDL. And at that point in time, you bring it up on Google, and you can watch all these highlights a little bit closer. You can bring them in, zoom in them on a little bit. You can watch up close Angus. You can watch the tight ends, the quarterbacks, whatever you want. So you could bring that right at your desk at work and add HUDL to Angus Evans. And you can watch Angus not only at Bridgeton Academy, but back in his days at Rome Free. So it's an incredible tool, and I'm sure you use it every day. So just a quick pointer out there. We're going to move on now to the wide receivers / running backs, and this kid is electric. CJ Amill, just a fantastic player. CJ out of Youngstown, Ohio, Cardinal Mooney High School, was a huge recruit, had some big-time offers. Tell me about him.
Yeah, just electric is the thing that I always see when obviously this first clip right here, when you can hand it off and you can take it to the house. I'm excited about that guy. First time I watched his highlight film, I thought he was a high major player.
Sure,
and that was
right there playing at Youngstown State, a big field.
And just the ability to stick his foot in the ground and go. And this is the kid that we're really looking at as a slot position that can, make a lot of things happen and, throw the bubble to him. Yeah, speed sweep, and even bring him back into the backfield. The things that we do, find ways. If you're a playmaker, we're going to find ways to get you the football.
Sure, and you look a lot of these plays here, you're going to get a chance for him to watch him catch the ball out of the backfield, a little swing pass off the Reed right there, but he's going to take this back, and he just looks, like I said, electric.
Just how they drew it up there,
You can't teach COD.
No.
You just can't teach it. You can't teach speed. You see him a lot. He has a good feel for this downhill zone play, 1 foot in the ground, and then he goes. You can see the speed that he brings to the game.
Yeah, and I know Coach McFadden's excited about him in the return game as well. Having an opportunity. He's done that in the past, and we're going to put him back there and see what happens.
Reminds me a little bit of Deshaun Brown.
Yep.
A little bit. Well, let's talk about that real quick. Some of that. You look at a kid like CJ, can catch the ball out of the backfield. He fits into that slot position you were talking about, and not only line him up in the slot, but maybe bring him on those speed sweeps that we talk about, and maybe just swing him on the bubble and things like that. He fits right in.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We're looking for guys. Obviously Ross was able to do all that for us this year, and maybe it's not just one guy. Maybe it's a multitude of guys that we're finding that can make those plays, and he definitely fits that mold off of his high school film.
CJ, an all Northeast Ohio and all Ohio honoree, 2,100 yards in his career. Ran the 4x100, ran the 100, ran the 200. His father played at Kent State. Big lineage here. His uncle played at Youngstown State, cousin at Prairie View Academy, another uncle at Illinois. So he's got a good pedigree.
Yeah, absolutely. And his dad's a great guy to talk to and loves football and knows what he's talking about as well. And I know they're excited and we're excited that he's here.
Sure. When I saw his Twitter and I saw some of the other things, very excited to be here at Lafayette. Just loved it. Has the chance, what he said, I can't quote him, but have the chance to get a fantastic education and play some good football.
Absolutely.
And what else would you?
Yeah,
what else
exactly.
would you want?
Retweet that, I guess, right?
Absolutely, that's a good one. We'll talk a little bit now about Trent Crossing. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Yep.
Trent, sounds familiar. Trent right there, 5'9", 195 pounds, played at Sachem North, and then again, Suffield Academy, another PG kid.
Yeah, and he's a kid that, I recruited up in Connecticut, and, just kind of like one of those slash kids as well, ability to, obviously play a ton of positions for them. You see him coming out of the backfield right here, and that's the, where he feels most comfortable. I mean, this is a kid that, scored 8 touchdowns in a game in high school, so anybody that can do that, I don't know if me and you could do that on air,
No.
So, finding a way to get a guy that can, make plays and get in the end zone, that's what you see, on his film.
Sure, all Long Island, second team selection. As Mickey mentioned, 8 rushing touchdowns. He accounted for 50 points in one game. That is the third most in Long Island history. 2-point conversion in that game that he scored gave his team, Sachem North, the win 63-62.
Sounds like a basketball game.
A lot of defense in that game. Spent a post year at Suffield Academy in Suffield. Tell me a little bit about Suffield Academy prep. Is that good football? Who do they play?
Yeah, they won the New Englands again this year.
Okay.
Drew Gramere does a great job up there.
Okay.
He makes me feel right at home because he has one of the best Boston accents I've been around. But he's actually roommates with Andrew Chuma. I know you talked to Coach Link about. But just a guy that loves football and loves his academic side of things with Trent here. So.
And we should mention that he has an older brother that plays at New Hampshire.
New Hampshire, and might have done a couple things against us a couple years ago that we don't want to talk about.
No, I'll tell you.
But he's a great player up there for him, and hopefully Trent is for us.
Right, a little bigger than Trent.
Yep.
Trent maybe a little bit more shiftier, but another good get. And a kid that, where do you play him? You're not sure. Wide receiver, start him there.
Yeah.
But when he gets the football in his hands, can do a lot of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, once again, it's a guy that you want to find, plays for him.
Okay, well, tell me a little bit. We're going to move on. Tyler West out of Great Falls, Virginia, Langley. Now, this kid has some great credentials. He was a first-team All-Region. Tyler West, a big get for you guys and a big bruiser.
Yeah, and he's a bigger, thicker kid, and that's the one thing when you meet him, he looks, as a bigger, thicker running back type guy, and kid that can rush for 2,000 yards excites me.
Yeah, 2,000 yards not only in his senior year, but also in his junior year. He broke the record with over 4,300 yards total, 54 touchdowns. He had 2,081 yards his junior year, 2,230 yards his senior year. That's 4,000 yards rushing in 2 years, over 54 touchdowns. He plays lacrosse, he plays basketball, just a fantastic athlete, but he seems to be a little bit of a beast mode type thing.
Yeah, and you see him kind of finish runs and run through things, but also being able to stick his foot in the ground and go when he sees a cut. He's more of a one-cut guy,
right.
Find that thing, but you see the first guy doesn't bring him down too often.
Okay, 5'11", 210 pounds might be a nice fit for some of that downhill stretch type of stuff in the pistol.
Yep.
And he plays defense as well. Obviously, with tailbacks with you got to be able to catch the ball in the backfield. Yep. So he seems like a very good athlete, and he brings a little bit of pop when he runs the football.
Yeah, exactly. A downhill kid that can really, like I said before, finish runs.
Right, and Tyler looks to be an economics major when he gets here. Very excited for him to be here. You have a nice stable of running backs.
Yep.
I mean, let's talk about it. You got Deshaun.
And we seem to use them all,
And you use them all. Well, use them all for the wrong reasons, obviously.
But we use them for the right reasons,
exactly.
too. We like to get those guys out there, and, it's whoever's, getting in that groove, let's find a way and get them out there.
Right, and Tyler fits in well with that group. And just to stay on the running backs real quick, like I said, we have Deshaun coming back, Mayfield. Haven't seen the best of Kyle yet.
Yep.
And obviously, we got Deuce still there as well.
Yep.
And then
Speranza, and then we got
Merriweather coming back, who's been hurt all year.
So.
It was a big recruit last year coming out of Arizona.
Yep.
So you got a nice stable. A lot of pressure on Coach Hallahan this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do that.
We're going to put
it
the
right on
pressure
him.
on him.
There you go.
Okay, so we've gone through 3 offensive linemen. We've gone through 2 tight ends.
Yeah.
We've gone through the 2 wide receivers. We've gone through the 2 running backs. We're going to talk about a quarterback that you got right now, Michael Lewis.
Yep.
And Michael's somewhat of a local kid out of Palmyra, 6 foot, 215 pounds. He's a good quarterback, all-time leading passer at Palmyra High School, 246 completions, over 3,000 yards, 30 touchdowns.
Yeah, he's a kid that, I got an opportunity this summer to work with a little bit, and, obviously he's got some great numbers there. The good thing is the kid can really throw the football, and those are the things that I'm always looking for when we're looking at quarterbacks is, number one, can he throw the football?
Right.
Does he have feet to put himself in a position to throw the football properly and then put it to where you need it, because accuracy is huge.
First time I watched Michael, I noticed he has a very quick release.
Yep.
He doesn't step into every throw.
Nope.
He's a little back foot thrower, but he does have a quick release, gets the ball out quickly, and nothing's more important nowadays than getting the ball out.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about, you know, and you see him make all the throws that we have to have him make, you know, on his film, you know, and finding ways to do that. And, you know, obviously he's won some games there too. So.
Sure, and you can see Michael right here just can actually roll out. I mean, gets on the move a little bit here, throwing a little takeoff route down the sideline. Again, ball comes out quickly, has a nice feel for the offense.
Yep.
He's not a real big kid you talked about, just around 6 foot, 6'1" maybe.
So, yeah, you know, and with losing Zach, you know, obviously Zach was a really tall kid, but all of our other guys are right around that, you know, 6 foot range, and you know, but they can all throw the football. And I'm excited about Mike coming.
Let's hone in a little bit right now before we break here and talk about the quarterback position. There was not a worse sight that Gary and I saw walking by 2 quarterbacks on crutches at 150 rivalry. That was a little depressing. Didn't know we were going to get out of Zach. Obviously, we had a fantastic game, great leadership out of Zweisig. Can you tell me a little bit about where those 2 are on their road to recovery?
They're on their way back, you know. So obviously they just got back in, you know, to classes, and you know, one has a boot off, one doesn't yet.
Okay.
You know, so that's kind of where we're at.
We won't even tell you which one.
Yeah,
just say one does, one doesn't.
Yeah. So they can figure that out, but one does, one doesn't, and you know, both of them are, you know, excited to get back, you know, and are on the road to recovery and finding ways that they can get back as soon as possible.
Sure. Leaves a lot of reps for a kid like Josh Davis.
Yeah,
Are they calling him Sunshine now?
Yeah, I think that started. It's gone away. Now it's back. You know, I know Josh is a little disappointed with the snow because his, you know, skateboard doesn't work out here. You know, I think he's going to have to snowboard a little bit. You know, find those out. But you know, Josh, you know, is excited to go into the spring, and I am too. You know, because spring is a way for all of those guys to really, you know, hone their skills and develop a little more and find out a little bit more about each of them.
You probably don't know at all, but are those 2 injured quarterbacks going to make an appearance in spring, or you don't think so?
That is yet to be determined.
Yet to be determined.
So we got, you know, obviously Coach T and you know, Matt Bailey got to get together and figure out exactly where that stands. So you know,
so we'll see a lot of Josh, and we'll see a lot of your right arm.
Yeah, hopefully not. You know,
Hopefully
because it's getting further and further away. I think my shoulder from my body. You know, the more I throw. So.
Well, to wrap things up here again, we showed you 10 offensive recruits. 3 offensive linemen, 2 all the way down, 1 quarterback, an exciting bunch of kids, very athletic, a good group, a group I think you can work with. You got to be excited about them. Mickey, thank you so much for joining us here today.
It's great to be here.
Any last comments about that group?
Well, it's nice to talk to you on TV, not having the glass in between, you know, like we do in the booth every once in a while. But, you know, like we said, you know, just an exciting group of guys that we can't wait to get on the hill here.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for joining us. In the next hour, we'll take a look at the defense. We have 8 defensive recruits to talk about with Coach Art Link and that 4-2-5 defense. Did they target the right guys? We'll find out at the 2 o'clock hour. Thanks for joining us here on Signing Day Central.